Hi, I'm Lexi Bandy. I'm a part of Team 1 and I will be talking about Indonesia today. Let's get started. So here's a quick overview. Today I will be talking about Hofstede's dimensions. I will be talking about power distance, time orientation, and proxemics. I will be talking about the worst time to travel and major holidays, and I will be talking about the superstitions and customs in Indonesia. Over here to the right, I have a picture of the city of Jakarta, which is the largest populated city in Indonesia, and then I have a map of the Indonesian islands. Let's get started. So I will first be talking about Hofstede's dimensions power distance. So Indonesia scored high on the power distance index with a score of a 78, which is a very high power index. This means that they are dependent on hierarchy, that power is very centralized, that the management controls and dictates, which means managers and bosses ultimately hold the power and dictate and control what happens in the workplace and what people do. The inequality in Indonesia is very high. There are unequal rights between power holders and non-power holders, but that is normal for their culture, so it is accepted. Employees do expect to be directed in the workplace by their bosses and managers. Anyone of a higher power directs the lower employees. And communication is indirect, which means they don't really focus on the words, more so the posture and your expression on your face and how you say things. That's very important, especially when giving presentations or having an interview. That's what they really focus on. And negative feedback is hidden. You can see the chart of Malaysia and Indonesia, just the comparisons between the Hofstede's dimensions for power distance, individualism, masculinity, and all of those. You can see that Malaysia does have a much higher power distance than Indonesia. So now I'm talking about Hofstede's dimensions time orientation. So in Western cultures, they are more future-oriented, and in Indonesia, they are past-oriented. So this means that they are more concerned with the traditional ways of doing things, and they are conservative in management and very slow to change. They don't really like change. So they are interested in heirlooms and a regard for ceremonies, rituals, history, and pedigrees. Their past culture is very important to them, and Indonesia has an extensive past culture that they hold very dear to them. They believe that time should be invested in building relationships, considering ideas, and preparing to act. Their relationships, business relationships in Indonesia are really important. They aren't focused on how long a job takes or getting that job done. They want to build a relationship with you, and they value that relationship and look for long-term relationships with customers and employees. If a deadline is missed, then this is the amount of time that it took. That's where Indonesia and Western cultures have a bit of a conflict whenever they are working with each other, because in Western cultures we are used to having a deadline and you have that done by your deadline. And in Indonesia, they don't want a limit on their creative process, so they believe that if a project takes longer than it was supposed to, then that's just how it was and you should be respectful of that. With that being said, precise timetables and schedules are difficult for them. Just putting a deadline on them is really hard for them. One of the things they live by is enjoy today with little concern for tomorrow. So they are very focused on today and not so much for the future. So proxemics, their official greeting, they bow and touch their forehead with their right hand when meeting each other. So if you come into the presence of an elder or superior, you are supposed to nod your head lower or bow out of respect of them. Items must be passed with both hands or your right hand, never your left hand. That is considered disrespectful. It's disrespectful to point fingers or put your hands on your hips. Men and women do not touch in public except shaking hands. Usually when women greet each other, they touch each other on the cheek, and when men greet each other, they shake hands and then place their right hand on their heart. Members of the same gender do touch frequently during communication, and that is normal. Personal space is very limited in Indonesia. Large families usually live together, and in the workplace and in restaurants, it's very normal to sit very close to people, and that's just a social norm there. When to avoid travel. So the busiest times of the years, here's a few holidays that are really difficult to travel on. New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, it's just really busy. Eid al-Fitr and Nyepi. These are two big holidays that it's really hard to travel. Nyepi, especially in Bali, that's where it's mainly celebrated. So that is usually a place you don't want to travel during that time. Weather conditions, rainy season is usually September through February, and dry and sunny season is usually May through August, so going on those summer months is usually the best time since it's just dry and sunny. Major holidays, there's Balinese New Year, which is held on March 25th. It's the day of silence, fasting, and meditation for Balinese. Feast of Sacrifice is held on July 30th. And honors willingness of Ibrahim to sacrifice his son as an act of obedience to God. So gift-giving customs. During the first meeting with a client or just going to someone's house, bringing a small gift is one of the best ways to display your interest and sincerity in establishing a long-term relationship with them. Which again is a very important thing with their culture, is having that long-term relationship, so gifts are very important. Including alcohol and pork products should be avoided due to religious beliefs. Gifts should be given and accepted with both hands together or the right hand alone, and unwrapping in front of the gift giver implies that the recipient is greedy or impatient. Some superstitions. Do not sweep at night because you will sweep your luck away. Do not sit or stand at the doorway or it will be difficult to find your other half. If you whistle at night, you will attract ghosts. If you open an umbrella indoors, someone in the house will die soon, especially a black umbrella. Those are some superstitions in Indonesia. And then here are my references. And that's all I have. Thank you.